everybody. Welcome to the Everyday Night. I'm Joe.
And I'm Jeff.
And Jeff,
Yes, Joe.
I conclude by your plaid-ish shirt that you are a lumberjack.
And that would be a false conclusion based on not enough evidence.
But lumberjacks wear plaid
Ah,
shirts.
that is an assumption that all lumberjacks wear plaid shirts. Therefore, if I'm wearing a plaid shirt, that I am a lumberjack. You start from a false premise.
How many lumberjacks do you know?
Only one, and he's dead. So,
Was he buried in a plaid shirt? Well, this is getting anyway. The reason I started that way is because we're going to talk about something called cluster thinking.
right. And it's pros and cons, and
Yes. And risks and advantages, if there were, once were, and what we do about it.
right.
Um, and I conclude
Do you
that
conclude or do you posit?
I conclude based on past experience that
Okay.
you are likely to have a beverage with you.
Oh, well, that you have a great deal of evidence to make that
I do. I
conclusion.
do.
Yes. And you are, in fact, correct. I have just a straight bourbon whiskey on
I'm
the rocks
I'm
with this,
shocked.
well,
Yeah.
um, a Penelope brand architect version.
Art,
Architect.
architect.
Yep. The brand is
Must
Penelope, and this particular bottling is called Architect.
It must taste wonderful, very intoxicating.
It's a very complex structure.
Ah, yes, as befitting the name.
And you,
Um,
sir, what
I have,
I would also
yes,
posit that
and
you
you
have
are correct.
a Negroni.
No, not an
No,
Negroni. I
that was just a guess.
That was a bad guess. Um, you will not find me with a Negroni because
Oh,
the bitter notes that some architects like, I don't. I tend to go for the more citrusy sort of things, as this, which is a spicy penicillin.
okay.
It's scotch, honey syrup, lemon juice, and a spicy ginger syrup, fiery ginger syrup
So
from
that's right, because I recognize
yeah,
the penicillin and the spicy is just from the ginger.
from the yeah. So a penicillin, a straight penicillin, is made with a often made with a ginger liqueur or ginger simple syrup, ginger
Okay.
infused simple syrup. This is a ginger fiery ginger syrup from Lieber and Company. They make a lot of really good quality syrups,
No, all
and
right.
so it's a penicillin, but it's got a nice bite to it as well.
Oh, good, good.
So here's to you.
Cheers.
Here's to you.
So I came upon this, I think it was on Instagram or TikTok, and it's Julian Baggini,
British
um,
philosopher.
yes, who posited this. I've been using that posit a lot, haven't I? But he's put forward
Are
this
you
this idea.
positive?
No, in fact, I'm not. Um, but he has put forward this idea that cluster thinking, in particular about climate change and climate crises, um, is a problem.
Well, and
Um,
around really, he extends it to around the thinking around a lot of political issues. And
right, right.
so, um, cluster thinking. So, Baggini, first of all, is a British philosopher. He's the author of 20 books. He's written extensively about philosophy. Really interesting, given a lot of speeches, interviews. Really interesting. A lot of food for thought. You can find a lot of interviews, lectures, TED Talk stuff online. Um, And cluster thinking, he said, wrongly assuming that certain beliefs go together. So
Right.
if you see someone holds a certain belief, cluster thinking is you're clustering that one belief they hold with a lot of others.
Right. The assumption that if they believe this, they must believe all these other things as well.
Right. And I think it's particularly interesting for both of us because we both are are very individualist in our thinking. And we've talked about it. You've talked about the social contract. I've talked about ethical pragmatism, about what are the individual what are the individual conclusions of different situations
Right.
and how do they all work together? But our thinking, you and I don't tend to fit the exact the stereotype of clustered
Right.
thinking about a lot of things.
I think, and that a lot has to do with this has to do a lot with politics, and um, but not it's not limited to politics. It's drawing conclusions about anything.
Right.
But
So
we,
just as an example, um, years ago, jury duty was different. Years ago, you were not, it's a lot simpler. You're picked, you're not picked, you call, you find out. I had jury duty. I had to go to the courthouse, report by a
Mhm.
certain early, and it might be impaneled, might not. They question, there's voir dire where either side can
Right,
dismiss someone. I was impaneled on the first jury. It was a civil case that took 3 weeks. I still had you were on for a month. I still
right.
had, yeah.
You were
And so,
available to be
right.
picked. Yeah,
So I had to go the next week and sit there. And then this was a criminal trial. And I was being questioned. And I mean, they questioned all of us, have a bunch of general questions. The prosecution dismissed me essentially without questioning.
hmm.
Prosecution. This was a criminal case of felony armed robbery, if I recall correctly, um, with assault, and I mean it was bad. And but I was dismissed because I concluded this was when I lived in Ann Arbor, and because of I had a beard and long hair, and they concluded, well, he's probably, that
Probably some kind of
soft,
soft-hearted liberal hippie.
yes, exactly.
If
And
only they'd known. I mean, you're kind of a liberal hippie, but you're definitely not soft-hearted.
no, no, I'm courteous, but that's not the same as nice. Um, I may also be nice, but that's different. I think that, and I've said before, when people do something wrong, they should. The wish I have for everybody is that everybody gets what they deserve. And, and I think that people who do wrong should face consequences for
Hmm.
it. Now, I have a lot of issues with the prison system, particularly for-profit prison system, and the school to prison pipeline, and there's a lot of issues around that.
Right, right.
But that's not to say that the prosecution was guilty of cluster thinking. I think because they made assumptions about
Right.
one thing and thought that meant something else. It's possible that the defense was making a um, similar thinking, um, but that's an example from years ago, and I didn't put it. I knew they were making a false assumption based on appearance, but I didn't have the term cluster thinking to think of it, to call it, to define it.
And I had sort of the opposite. Um, experience when I was called to jury duty. It was an attempted murder case, and they asked if you'd ever been people had ever been in a fight. And I'm, okay, and then you had to explain and give your juror number and then explain what the circumstances
Yeah.
were. And then they asked if you'd um, ever had any extended uh, interactions with police. Well, I used to work for the state police when I mean, and I knew lots of state police when I was growing up, and Washtenaw County, or not Washtenaw, county sheriff's deputies, in northern Michigan. And so I raised my hand again and I gave my juror number, and, I told them what the circumstances were. And they said, okay, does any of you have experience with firearms? Like, okay. And they said, okay, can you explain? And I started talking. They said, can you give your juror number? And I said, oh, I thought you'd recognize me by now. And I thought there's no way they're going to put me on this jury, but they did.
Oh,
So yeah, I thought 3 ways I was going to be disqualified somehow because it was the prosecution asking all these questions.
yeah, yeah,
So I don't know.
yeah. Well, I think that. I mean, there are jury consultants, and they research in big cases. They research the jurors. They have people standing in for them with similar profiles, and they do trial juries, and they do it's a whole thing. Um, but the cluster thinking we'll see a lot in people make assumptions based on, as we said, appearance, experience, education, your views, your conclusions on one thing or another, and extend that to other things.
Right.
And I should mention, as I often do, there's a difference between an opinion and a conclusion. And I think in this, it matters less whether we're talking about someone's opinion or conclusion, because the person doing associating in a cluster with is basing that on whatever you say, whether it's an opinion or a conclusion. I think this,
Yeah,
people don't distinguish between, they'll say I think when they mean I feel, they feel, they'll say they feel when they mean they think, they'll say
I believe when
believe when it's,
you don't have any real evidence, you
yeah, well, yeah. Um, so that doesn't really, I usually distinguish for that, but it doesn't really matter because it's not what there's, it's how that's perceived by the
right.
person categorizing them. Um, it every individual case should be evaluated on its own merits.
Right.
Evidence conclude leading to conclusion, right? Um, but we see, I've been seeing a lot of the clusters. There are some really odd alignments in clusters. The assumptions, oh, you're liberal or progressive, therefore you must think this. When that, or you're a conservative, you therefore must think this. When those would not have been liberal or conservative thinking
Right.
only a few years ago, even.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And
Well within our lifetime, it's
yeah,
become
so the um so why did we evolve to think to make these associations that are called cluster thinking?
well. Bajini says that it's linked to tribalism,
Uh,
and we've talked about, or at least I've compared
yeah,
tribalism and racism
yeah,
as a way back when we were, living in hovels and had a limited gene pool, and when somebody came over the hill that wasn't your tribe, they were you had to assume at first that they were a threat.
Right.
Um, so that has, I think, deeply buried in our ever evolving brain is this idea that if it doesn't look like me, if it doesn't sound like me, if it doesn't smell like me, it's a threat. It's dangerous. And this has been, a third of all science fiction is based on the humans will kill anything that they're afraid of.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So, um,
Is that science fiction or fact?
well,
Yeah.
science fiction is based on uh,
Fact. Yeah.
plausible
Exactly.
scenarios.
Yeah.
So I think that's what he's kind of talking about here. That this is all linked to what may have been survival instincts, 50 millennia ago. Um, but we can
Yeah.
replace, hopefully, with reason now.
Yes. But fear is the enemy of reason.
Yes. Fear
Fear
is the
is the
mind
mind
killer.
killer.
Beat you to the quote.
Yeah, okay. Uh, I was giving it a more dramatic delivery. You rushed through. So,
How dare you criticize my delivery? An actor has his own way.
oh, all right. All right. All right. So, um, so I think the challenge for all of us is to first to examine our own thinking. Are we
Right,
assuming somebody thinks certain things? Well, there are some associations that are really extreme, that are have a higher I'd say not every clustered thinking assumption has the same odds of being true.
okay.
Some are more likely to be true than others.
Well, I think you use the word extreme, and I think that's
Yeah.
what we're talking about. To
Yeah.
me, I can't think of myself anymore as liberal or conservative or even centrist is hard to do now. I just think of myself now as anti-extremist.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I even think the term conservative has lost its meaning. The meaning has been corrupted because
Yes,
people call themselves conservative who are actually for extreme radical change, which is the opposite of conservatism.
right,
And people call themselves progressive who are not for advancing the human condition. They are there's too much wishful thinking and
right,
too little pragmatism in a lot of that. And the middle is is well, I it's like the I don't want to be involved. I'm not involved. I don't want to be. I'm just doing it's spineless in some way.
yeah. To me, that's almost like a third axis of
Yes.
disengagement.
Yes. Yeah. Um, and I saw a diagram of the Congress, and it graphed the individual members of Congress on the very liberal to very conservative, the left to right
Hmm.
spectrum. And over time, there was a lot of overlap. There were moderate or even liberal Republicans, there were moderate or conservative Democrats. And over time, and you can see this. So there were, and they used blue and red dots, of course.
Yeah, of course.
And there was a lot in the middle. And then over time, it separated to where it's two completely separate clusters.
Hmm.
And some tend more this way or others, but they're separated. There's very little crossover. at all. Um, the whole thing has shifted rightward.
Yeah.
The Overton window of is what can be discussed is has shifted, but but part of it has shifted left, but uh yeah, it's a mess. Because people make assumptions. And I know people have made assumptions about my thinking, and I'm sure about yours as we talked about. Um,
Well, I think there's also not just assumptions. I think those people that, I don't know, maybe it's those that think like that are taking over communication platforms and are forcing people to decide to pick one or the other, to go,
yeah,
you have to be all left or you're not accepted, or you
right.
have to be all the way right or you're not accepted.
It's a purity test.
Yeah, exactly.
And if your thinking is impure, even in one area, you're a heretic,
Right.
according
Yeah.
to that. Well, that's it's gotten increasingly difficult to find um, people with whom I can have a conversation where we disagree, but do so respectfully and based on evidence.
Well, yeah. And this is sort of the going through cluster thinking and out the other side of saying, well, if you don't think like this, you can't think like me.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
you're the enemy. If you are not adapting everything I am espousing, you are on the wrong side.
yeah.
But it's
Yes,
not about sides, or it shouldn't be about sides.
it should be. Yeah, it should be about working together. But it's
Well, or at least
or
working separately
understanding.
towards a common goal.
Yes, exactly. Um, the there's a, one another example of the detrimental effect of cluster thinking involves the straw man fallacy.
Hmm.
Um, so you say somebody says something and you disagree, and they immediately jump to, oh, so you're in favor of fill in the
Yeah,
blank, some objectionable thing that you're not in favor of, but they are clustering that with the
right.
other thing you said. Um,
Or it's some more extreme extrapolation of what you just said to make
yes,
it easier to attack.
yes, yeah, exactly. So I didn't say this. You're saying I said that, and you're attacking that. And now I've seen that in political um, commentary, discussion, advertising for really for decades now. Invent who you invent a stand-in for the political opponent, and then criticize what you're claiming that
Yeah,
stand-in says. No, they didn't say that. You're saying, well, they voted for or against this bill because it had other things in it or wasn't. So you're extrapolating to that they are in favor of this or they're opposed to this or they hate that, and then you're attacking that. And it's it's a straw man fallacy, but it's appealing to the cluster thinking of
yes.
voters. Um, it's and
Well,
having worked in there's and I mentioned this before, my personal dichotomy of I I think logically, I endeavor to think logically, look for the data, follow the evidence, reach a logical conclusion, consider alternatives, and do that. But I worked in advertising and marketing, and that's based on emotional appeal.
yeah,
So because most people make most of their decisions, their buying decisions, certainly, but I think most of their decisions make those decisions emotionally and then justify those decisions to themselves with facts. So if an emotional argument's presented and then what claims to be facts, what the people claim to be facts are presented, they'll use those facts to justify their emotional, the conclusion they jump to emotionally.
Right. Well, and even worse, they will tend to how do I want to put this? They will ascribe a veracity to, this is confirmation bias. They will
Yeah.
ascribe veracity to anything they hear that supports their original conclusion
Yes. And then
and tend
dismiss
to
anything.
discount the, yeah.
Yes. And I had that in a conversation with someone, and they said immediately, "Don't give me evidence from these sources. These are I don't trust them." Okay, what are your sources of information? And they gave me non-credible sources of information.
Right. Yeah.
I said, well, I could say the same thing about that. So let's look for credible sources of information that we both agree are credible. Well, I get my information from some guy on the internet,
Yeah. Right.
you know.
Well, and this is happening in our government right now. The part of the bill, part of the big bogus bill is the it is empowering the White House, not Congress, not the White House, to put a representative in every science in the NIH, the JMA. I mean, there's every
Oh, they
scientific.
yeah, the worm in the brain
Oh,
secretary
RFK.
of HHS saying that no, only there will be official government scientific journals.
Right, because all of the medical journals right now are corrupt, is
Yeah.
his assertion.
Yes.
No particular evidence presented, um,
Yeah.
but
Um,
but it's worse just than that because it's now the the White House is saying that they are going to have a representative who is appointed directly by the president in every scientific anything that's funded scientifically or funded federally. Um, they will be there to decide whether or not this is good science or not, and withhold or extend funding.
yes.
If the White House agrees that the science you're doing is actually good science, you'll get money. If the White House doesn't believe that your science is credible, they're going to cut your funding. There's no peer review. No, it's just an appointee is going to make
The decision.
the straight decision. Yeah. Yep.
They, there, and we should talk about that big bullshit bill. It hasn't,
Yeah.
as
That
we're
might be
talking
that.
now, it's passed the House of Representatives by one vote, but it did not pass. It's still being, it's going to come up in the Senate.
Yeah.
And one of the things that really concerns me about that, and maybe this is another episode to talk about this and everything that's in that piece of shit bill.
And that's 1,100 pages. That's going to be a long episode.
Well, we can talk about the lowlights of it, of which there are many, but that funding, the the judiciary will receive no funding to enforce um, court orders,
Right. Yeah.
so
That's
they can be ignored.
essentially.
Yes,
Not only that, and any private individual, it's kind of
it's
complicated, purposefully so, that it's harder and harder to sue the government
yes.
if it does something illegal.
This is it's the definition of a monarchy.
Well, it's certainly pushing towards authoritarianism.
Yeah. Oh, it's yeah.
But you're
So
right. If that's another episode, let's do that on the.
yes, yes.
So,
So so how do we so if cluster thinking makes us tribal, what do we do? What do
well,
we do to combat that? So we evaluate individual beliefs, opinions, conclusions on their individual merits.
right. But Bajini
Yep.
suggests three steps.
Yes, I think that was the first one. Yes.
Judge beliefs on their individual merits,
Yep.
not as moral badges, but as pragmatic responses to circumstances.
Yes.
I think that's the
Yep.
important phrase there. You don't claiming that I believe all these things to gain entry into this partisan club
Yeah.
is dangerous and false. It it
And
does
it's
not
been
show veritas.
yes. Yes. Veritas, and it's certainly takes courage to question these assumptions rather than retreat into group thinking. Um, there have been consistently um, demonstrations, many small and many large demonstrations.
Constantly.
Yes. And one thing I noted, and it's something I noted back in the day of uh, anti-war protests, anti-war protests tended to be focused on the war. However, there were always other people with other interests who were
Attending.
attending out there as well, expressing their points of view. I found that there was a lot of that, perhaps even more diverse individual foci focuses
Hmm.
on among the people who were attending, uh, but they were all agreeing on a thing, but their reasons for being there were different. And what that said to me is that somebody looking at this from the outside would cluster all of those things together and be mistaken when it was
Yes.
a single thing um, that they were agreeing on, and a lot of other things that people didn't necessarily agree on.
Right. And I think if you go to a protest and join a protest, but um, broadcast a different message than what the protest is protesting,
Yeah,
it's easy to start thinking that, oh, well, they're all together and they all believe what
right.
in each individual sign says.
Yeah,
But you're right, it's that's not correct. It's
yeah.
not
There were opinions expressed on some of the signs that I did not agree with.
right.
Um,
And it's
but
just that suddenly there's an audience for
yes,
me. I know that
yes,
there's going to be a generally sympathetic audience,
yes.
and I can get away with doing this.
Well, and at any of these, you're going to find people from PETA, the People for the Ethical
Sure.
Treatment of Animals. There were people in the inflatable dinosaur
Yeah,
costumes
right.
holding, which struck me as really odd. Why would you pick an extinct? If you're going to cosplay as an animal, why extinct animals? It
I,
doesn't that counter
I
to,
saw that too, and I couldn't follow the logic. I couldn't.
yeah, yeah.
I'm not sure unless this is kind of an anti-fossil fuel thing. I don't. That
Yeah,
was a
but
long stretch,
PETA
but
PETA's actually well, PETA's another issue. They ran an animal shelter that they killed more animals
oh yeah,
than
oh,
they're yeah,
thousands of animals a
yeah,
year.
yeah, yeah. Um so um that's not ethical treatment, that's an ideology. So that's an example of that as well. So his next point was be suspicious of false dichotomies.
Yes.
Is it this or this? Well,
Is there not a third way? Is there not a
or is
better
it
way than either of those two?
some of both, or some of this, or um, um,
Well, and that's the thing. Is there a compromise? And this is kind of where government is falling apart and failing us right now. Is that what's what's a reasonable compromise? What serves the public?
yeah.
What we're willing to give this up because it doesn't, I mean, this is an extreme request. We know it is. This is a bargaining
Boy,
position.
I forgot to put my microphone down here. I don't know if
Well,
that's
okay.
better or different, but
It's a little better.
there we go.
Um, so, but the idea of compromise doesn't seem to come up as much anymore. It's,
No.
no, okay, if you don't like this bill, we're going to go away and we're going to reword it and bring it back. And you can either vote yes or no on everything in the bill,
Yeah.
or you can stop everything in the bill. And then it's always well, you voted against this. Well, I voted against that because it had all of this other
Most things,
crap
yeah.
in the bill that,
Well, there was a Speaker of the House, Denny Hastert, a Republican, um, who's now, I think, in prison for um, um, paying paying hush money to underaged. I don't want to. He's in prison, but maybe he got out. I don't know. Um, but he had came up with something that's known as the Hastert rule, where
Mhm.
he would not bring a bill to the floor of the House unless he could pass it only with Republican votes.
All
Um,
right.
and that's the opposite of compromise.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
that's where we are now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's not even, doesn't even have to be called out as a thing. It just,
It's just, yeah. Um, so dichotomies, it's,
well, the way Bagini talks about it, he says, if someone presents an issue as a fork in the road, like, well, do you want X or do you want Y? Those are your two choices. He says, are those the only two options, or are you really being asked to identify with a side?
yeah. Yeah.
And that's the trap and what you want to try and avoid.
There's a game, this or this, and you have to
Oh,
choose.
yeah.
And
Would you rather?
would you rather? And they're both usually terrible options. And it's like, no,
Right.
the Kobayashi Maru,
Yeah,
right?
the no-win situation.
No in situation. No,
Right.
I'm not
Well,
going
it becomes a
to.
what do you consider the lesser of these two evils?
Right.
Right? Is what the game is.
Right.
These are both evil things, but
Yeah.
what would you accept if you had to pick one evil over the other?
Well, and what
And
I
how
would
do you
say is
justify it?
I'm not playing the game.
Right. Right.
There was a game show. I don't think it's still on. It ran for way too long, called the honeymoon game, newlywed
Yeah.
game,
Newlywed Game. I
newlywed
remember.
game, and they would ask awful, embarrassing, personal, intrusive questions and try to match with their new spouse. And if they won, they won a toaster or something.
An
It was
appliance or
an
a trip
appliance.
or
Ridiculous. Why would people, was it just the look, I'm on TV. I don't care if I'm embarrassed or what I say, I'm on TV.
well,
Um,
back when the show started in the 60s, it was pretty innocuous. It was pretty like, what is your husband who's been off in our soundproof booth?
yeah,
What is your husband's favorite breakfast? Or how does your husband like his eggs? Sunny side up, and it was multiple choice, right? And a lot of it was very innocuous. But
no.
to keep viewers, and as television got more and more sordid,
Yes.
so did the show. Um,
What's the oddest place you've ever made whoopee?
in the butt.
Yeah, that was actually that's a classic
Yeah.
from yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Um yeah,
And
I'm
what was the host of that show?
Bob
Winkler?
Eubanks.
Bob Eubanks. That's right. That's what it was.
Bob
Yeah.
Eubanks. Who
So,
was a I mean the I think the game show host on the Simpsons is based on him, I think. Because it was Guy
hmm.
Smiley.
Oh,
Guy
okay.
Smiley. Could have been any of them though. They were all so very
Yeah,
similar.
there was a certain mold that
Yeah.
Gary from the Laugh In,
Owen.
Gary Owen. I wanted to say Oldman, but that's not what we're talking about. Yeah,
Different,
Gary
very
Owens.
different.
Yeah. Yeah, Gary Owens was almost a caricature of himself on the Laugh In show.
Yeah, he was intentionally with the hand on the yeah,
Yes.
hand on the ear. Um, so, um, so pause your assumptions is the
That's the
third
third
thing. Yes.
method or the third advice he gives. Um uh
It's simplistic to assume beliefs come together. It's insulting to think the depth and complexity of someone's beliefs can be represented by one view on one topic.
that's very insightful right there.
Yes. I am finding though, and have found this for many years, that beliefs that there are people who believe one thing, and because the group that supports that has expectations that they will believe other things, they let that influence their thinking
Oh yeah.
to join that group, to be accepted in that group.
Right. That's we were
And
talking about that at the beginning.
yeah,
That
um,
you feel the need to belong to the tribe.
yeah, exactly.
And so you end up those beliefs bleed into your worldview.
Yes. And he does say, stay curious, ask questions, don't assume, ask questions. Um, I've also found that, and this goes back to our discussion on confirmation bias, directly challenging someone's opinion is less persuasive than asking them questions about why they believe that.
Yes.
Why do you believe that? How did you reach that opinion? What evidence do you have for that? What informs your opinion? What informs your thinking? Can you share that with me? It's time consuming, it's lengthy, and it's not guaranteed to have any success at all. But simply saying you're wrong and here's why is guaranteed to not work.
Well, and the assumption is that you need to change someone's mind, right? You if
Well,
if your
at
argument is
at least to get them to think more broadly about something,
well, I'm
they
only
have to
interested,
change their own mind. I cannot change someone's mind.
right.
All I can do is ask questions to help them understand that there might be more involved than the narrow set of information or false information that they have, were true or false, that it's bigger. And the things like this, asking questions is about my own thinking, but it helps other people with their thinking as well.
Well, and there's a I can't remember the quote. It's a quote that says a discussion shouldn't be about a useful, meaningful discussion isn't about deciding who's right. It's about finding the truth together.
Yeah.
So I don't need to convince somebody that they're wrong or that I'm right. When I'm asking questions, it's because that doesn't match up with what I believe or I know. The information I have is contrary to that. So
Yeah.
what's your source? Is it better than mine? Should I adjust my own thinking?
Yeah.
It's not, it's
And being,
less
yeah, I
about,
agree. And being open to changing your own thinking about something based on information they present.
right. Now, and I'm certainly, full disclosure, I'm certainly willing to say, oh yeah, well, here's what I think.
Yeah.
And then, yeah,
Yeah.
said, no, actually, here's what I think. And then, but again, I've talked about this before on our show that I tend to be a little thicker skinned than most people. And to me, all I'm doing is it, badly, it's less than politely saying, oh, yeah, well, I would like to have a discussion about that. So here's my
No.
position. Present your
Yes.
position, and we'll have a discussion.
I've had to explain uh, in professional situations, in academic situations, in a lot of situations that I will come to a discussion with evidence, with a hypothesis based on that evidence, and I will present that assertively, and I expect somebody to just as assertively question, poke holes in it, give me their hypothesis, and let's
Yeah,
compare them, and let's examine, and let's go back and forth. And that's a vigorous and rigorous debate that can lead to a better conclusion than either of us could reach individually. But people don't necessarily understand that.
right.
They
And it's
think you
immediately a
are,
personal attack.
yeah, or yeah, and yeah. So, well, we've talked about this before, that people don't understand unless you've been trained in critique, which is a term used in design and arts of all sorts. Um, um, Critique is a very specific process by which a person presents, they give their rationale, they ask questions, and it's a back and forth. It's a positive discussion. It's not negative criticism. Critique is what some people would call positive criticism. It's a discussion. But there's a process for it, and that I think would benefit people to understand. That's another episode. Critique and
Critique,
yeah,
pro, um,
process for critique.
methods and processes of
Yeah,
critique.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, actually.
So
So,
so yeah,
uh, some I want to go over some of the examples he gives for this, your assumptions and clustering assumptions. If someone tells you they're worried about immigration, don't assume you know how they voted. If someone is celibate, don't guess their theology.
mhm,
Ask questions. Let people surprise you. I think
yeah, yeah,
it's simplistic to assume beliefs must come together. I I think that that's really to me the basis of this whole thing.
yeah. If someone is a teetotaler,
Right.
don't assume why.
Right.
In fact, it's not even your business to unless
Right. Exactly.
you know. Um,
Well, yeah. Well, I'm not drinking. Oh, what's wrong? Nothing's wrong. I just
yeah,
don't want to
yeah,
drink.
yeah.
And
So,
the assumption, like, yeah, the assumption that there has to be something wrong for you to not drink or not do
yeah.
this or that.
Well, it's assumptions. And
Right.
I remember a comedian, I remember who it was years ago, said, assume makes an ass of you and me. Ass, you, me,
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
assume. Right.
Quite an old chestnut there. That's
Yeah. Yeah. I don't remember who said that first, but um,
might have been Milton Berle. It's that old.
ugh, Uncle Milty. People,
God rest him. God
people,
rest him.
one of the people who was um, banned from ever returning to Saturday Night Live.
Was he really?
Oh
I didn't
yeah,
know he was still, I didn't know he ever was on it
early days, early days, I
when they were
think.
desperate for celebrities.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there were a few over the years who were, I think it was Saturday Night Live. I know he was banned from something because he was, um, well, that's by the time somebody reaches that diva status and they
Uh-huh.
get whatever they want, they're often harder to work with.
Completely
Um,
insufferable.
yeah. Not everybody, though. Some, I've met a lot of really well-known, successful people who were just gracious, generous with their time, um, very personable, very nice. So it doesn't have to be that way.
No, and I think it comes down to whether if you're taught whether you deserve something
Yeah,
by if you have success, if you've been brought up with the idea that, well, you're successful because you're better,
yeah,
you become the diva.
yeah,
If you are successful because you worked harder or you got lucky and you
yeah,
recognize that, you're less likely to,
yeah,
I think.
yeah. I think yeah, I think that's it. Yeah. Um, yep. So I think that we have talked about this.
Yes, we have.
I think this is, I would recommend to people if they're so interested to go back and look at our episodes on critical thinking, cognitive biases,
Mm-hmm.
cognitive dissonance. Um, we've mentioned logical fallacies, but I don't know that we've
Oh, we did a
specific.
whole, yeah,
Did
we
we
did
do
a
a whole
whole
thing on? Yeah,
thing on yeah,
yeah,
rhetorical
yeah,
traps and
yeah.
yeah.
So,
I
um,
think what I've decided I'm going to do is check out the one of the books written by this
20
individual.
books. Yeah.
One of them is called How to Think Like a Philosopher, and I think having a beard is a good start.
Yes, yes, exactly.
Um, it's,
I need to get a church warden pipe.
oh, well, there you go. Hmm.
But
The
no,
long
church warden,
and
that's more like a wizard than
oh, you mean the long clay one?
yeah,
Is that the
yeah,
church
yeah,
warden one? You mean
yeah.
like a meerschaum or something like more Holmesian.
Holmesian. Um, yeah, so anyway, um
But I think I might check that out and then maybe put a link to it in the comments.
yeah, it sounds good.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I think that's it. Thank you everybody for listening to us. Please like, subscribe, share, give us your comments, send us topics you would like to hear us discuss.
You got a book you want us to review?
Yeah,
Let us know. We'd love to have some more to talk about. So,
I have a couple books I'd like you to review.
Roy, you sure you want me to review them?
Share your reviews with me first, and then
We're not going to review them live.
I'm confident even if you did. So
Okay.
I'm talking about my books.
Of
So
course, I know you are.
yeah, well, I'm telling them because they might not know. So thank you, and until we see you next time, be thou
A good night.
and true.